Welcome to this explainer. I am so glad you're hanging out with us today because we're diving into something that so many incredibly smart, highly capable people struggle with, but completely in silence. It's the hidden, lifelong struggle of the multidimensional thinker. You probably know the story, right? Everyone always told you to just pick one thing. And hey, you tried. You really did try. But despite that literal graveyard of half-finished online courses and abandoned craft supplies tucked away in your closet, something inside of you just kept moving. It kept asking questions. It kept wondering, well, what else is out there? And now you might be sitting here wondering if something is fundamentally broken with you. Well, I am here to tell you as we walk through the data and the psychology today that you are absolutely not broken. In fact, the truth is actually a whole lot more fascinating. 4 simple words. So, what do you do? If you're a multidimensional thinker, hearing those words at a dinner party probably makes this small, super familiar panic rise right up in your chest. You kind of freeze. You feel this immediate, quiet sense of shame because, well, you've got way too many projects going on. You have those courses you bought and never finished. Heck, you might have had 3 major career pivots in the last 5 years alone. You simply don't know how to answer that question in one neat, clean sentence. And man, it feels like a personal failure every single time. And then comes the label the world just slaps on you. Interested in everything, committed to nothing. It's that relatable everyday pain of being, say, a marketer who codes on the side, or a business person who loves to paint, or an engineer who's writing poetry at midnight. The world looks at you and essentially tells you to stop being broken. They tell you to just pick one thing, build a nice, safe, linear career, and for goodness sake, stop getting distracted. They make you feel like your deep, wide-ranging curiosity is some sort of character flaw that needs fixing. But here is the secret no one told you. Okay, let's dive into this. The societal expectation is that you lack focus. But your reality? You're essentially driving a Formula One engine in a school parking lot. Your problem was never a lack of focus. Your problem was literally never a lack of discipline. Your problem is that you have a high-powered, highly capable brain, and you've been boxed in by a world that strictly demands narrow specialization. Psychologists have actually been studying folks exactly like you for decades now, and what they've found? It completely contradicts what you were taught to believe. So let's break down the 5 core struggles of the polymath mind right now. All right, here is struggle number 1, hyper-curiosity. Most people out there lose interest in a topic when it gets hard, but you lose interest when something stops being new. Your brain doesn't actually get bored, it gets hungry. The science shows that your dopamine system fires completely differently. You don't just want to memorize isolated facts, no way. You have this intense hunger to connect things. You want to connect history to psychology, and then take that psychology and apply it straight to business. This isn't a lack of discipline. It's an actual neurobiological drive. And that brings us to the real science behind it all. Interdisciplinary cognition. This totally anchors your experience in legitimate science. Your brain literally has a natural structural wiring that actively seeks depth across multiple domains, rather than seeking depth within just one single silo. You are structurally built to zoom out and see the entire board, to gather puzzle pieces from entirely different boxes and just snap them all together. It's a specific, highly advanced cognitive trait. But of course, there's a massive gap in how all this is perceived out there. The world looks at your diverse interests and stamps you with the label scattered. They file you under unfocused or lost. But science looks at that exact same behavior and calls it interdisciplinary cognition. The way society negatively files your behavior is completely at odds with your empowering psychological reality. Let's be really clear here. You are not scattered. You are cognitively vast. Which leads right into our second core struggle, identity diffusion. You've probably never been able to fully answer the question, who are you? And that's because your identity constantly shifts right along with your interests. I mean, maybe last year you were entirely consumed by stoicism, and this year you are deep down the rabbit hole of neuroscience and systems thinking. Meanwhile, you're watching your peers build these incredibly clear, clean identities. I'm a liar. I am a designer. And you feel that quiet shame of lacking one simple answer. But again, this isn't a weakness. It's simply what happens when a massive mind cannot be filed under one tiny little label. Now for the third struggle. It's the classic friction between you and the people closest to you. Well-meaning friends and family are using specialist logic. They keep telling you, just focus and pick a lane. But your generalist mind operates on the core principle that everything connects. They're applying one-dimensional advice to your multidimensional mind. And the real danger here is that over time, you start to believe them. You start shrinking yourself down. You apologize for your curiosity and hide just how many things you're actually thinking about, really just to make the specialist around you more comfortable. Struggle number 4 is perhaps the most painful of them all, the imposter spiral. You know a lot about a lot of things, but because your knowledge is spread across different domains, you never quite feel like you know enough about any one thing to be considered legitimate. So you walk into a room full of experts and you feel like an absolute fraud. You know enough to have the conversation, absolutely, but you never feel legitimate enough to really own it. And for polymaths, this is relentless because you're perpetually the beginner, not because you lack depth, but simply because your room keeps changing. Which brings us to the 5th struggle. You are a multidimensional person trapped in a one-dimensional world. When someone asks what you do, the honest truth would literally take 10 minutes to explain. But let's face it, the world doesn't have 10 minutes. So what do? You compress yourself. You pick the absolute safest, smallest label that the person asking will understand, and then you walk away from that conversation feeling completely invisible. Like you showed up, sure, but no one actually saw the real you.
The twist: AI and the future.
The world you've been living in up until now was built entirely for specialists, but the age of artificial intelligence changes the rules of the game completely. We are pivoting from your pain to your impending massive advantage. Now, what's really interesting about this shift is the stark contrast. On one hand, you have the fragile specialist. In the age of AI, the person who only knows one single thing is incredibly vulnerable to being replaced. They're totally one-dimensional. But on the other hand, you have the rare generalist. And hey, that's you. You synthesize alongside AI. You're that rare mind that can connect medicine to marketing. You can think creatively like a designer while reasoning logically like an economist. AI can generate all the specific information in the world, but it desperately needs the generalist to walk into any room in any industry and synthesize the big picture. Just think about Leonardo da Vinci for a second. He actually wasn't respected in his time for being unfocused. He was feared for being too much. His contemporaries called him inconsistent. They couldn't put him in a neat little box. But history ultimately called him a genius. What your peers today might call scattered is the exact same trait that drives massive historical innovation. You aren't broken, my friend. You were just born a few decades too early for the modern corporate world to appreciate you. Well, until right now. Your new framework. To move forward, we need a totally new framework. You have to abandon the old trap. Stop asking yourself, what do I do? Stop pretending you have one lane, and definitely stop trying to squeeze your vast mind into a tiny corporate title. Instead, you need to fully embrace the new advantage. Start asking yourself, what do I uniquely see? Your entire worldview needs to be reframed around your unique ability to see the hidden links, the cool overlaps, and the intersections that those narrow specialists completely miss. So the crucial point is this: you didn't have a focus problem. You had a framing problem. Once you realize that your hypercuriosity, your shifting identity, and your interdisciplinary cognition are actually the exact tools required to navigate complex, modern problems, literally everything changes. The very thing you thought was your curse is, in reality, your ultimate competitive advantage. You just had the wrong frame around the picture. I want to leave you with this final, truly provocative thought. The world needed a specialist. The future needs you. Just let that sink in for a second. You are exactly what comes next. If this explainer hit something real in you today, I highly encourage you to share it with someone else who might really need to hear it. The world needed a specialist, but the future needs you. So what disparate, unconnected dots are you going to snap together tomorrow? Thanks so much for joining me, and keep connecting.